All right, you're good.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. It is Wellness Wednesday. And today we are talking about emotional intelligence. So today I wanted to talk about emotional intelligence because I seen a post on Facebook. I seen a post on Facebook and someone said that everybody doesn't need to have emotional intelligence. And I think I seen this like a few days ago, and I'm just like, well, that brought some alarming thoughts to me because I'm like, well, I feel like emotional intelligence is what society actually needs. And so, I feel like society does need that because I think that a lot of people do lack a lot of emotional intelligence. And this is the way that we connect with each other. And this is the way that we connect with ourselves, our own emotions. I think that a lot of times when we don't show the proper emotions in certain situations, we kind of lack a lot of self control. And then we also allow ourselves to um, we entertain a lot of things that we shouldn't be entertaining, and we also require ourselves to do a lot of burnout when it comes to work. And there's just so many other factors that contribute to it. So I ended up watching. I came across a TED talk about it. Emotional intelligence. It seems like emotional intelligence has been like a very important topic that I've been coming across these past few days. So I ended up watching a TED talk about it, and they talked about some of the skills that we should actually use or learn if you don't, or if you're lacking that emotional intelligence. So I just really wanted to kind of discuss that a little bit and help people are who don't really know like what emotional intelligence is, and how to um, kind of help with bringing that into their lives so that they can understand like how to be more empathetic and have better social skills and be more aware and have some more self-regulation towards people and themselves. you know I think that the a lot of times we see that people lack emotional intelligence in the workplace, but I feel like it's a big thing that's lacking in just social settings, period. You could be a part of a group, like a social group or some type of group outside of work. You could be a part of the Dollar Grove Club, and you feel like maybe there's no emotional intelligence, but that's impossible because that's why we have emotional and mental wellness. Because we want to talk about these things. We want to bring forth those important topics that a lot of things are look, the topics that are being pushed to the side. A lot of times people push aside those topics that are, just they don't want to really talk about. And that's why we talk about trauma. We talk about emotions. We talk about, those deep rooted issues that people just not interested in talking about because it'll bring about those emotions. Someone's in the TED talk, she talks about how as she was growing up in like high school, she really didn't use a lot of her emotions. She just rationalized a lot of the issues. And I know that I had did a coaching session on like one of the skills of DBT, which is called Wise Mind, where with Wise Mind, we talked about the emotion mind, the rational mind, and then the wise mind. And a lot of time we use only the emotion mind and the rational mind, and we never use the wise mind. And with the emotion mind, it's where we mostly use a lot of our emotions to kind of understand situations or kind of make a solution to situations, but those emotions are not always emotions that will are positive emotions, right? And then when we a lot of our emotions are based off of like impulses. So and then we talked about the rational, and the same thing with when we try to rationalize things, we kind of use our emotions to kind of help with that. But with wise mind, we're actually trying to like use all of it. We use our emotions, we use our rational mind, but then we come to why we use wise mind to really think deeper and to really come to the solution of what the issue is that we're dealing with. So what is emotional intelligence? That's really just ability to understand your own emotions, but also being able to recognize emotions around you from other people. And honestly, let me tell you something. There's so many people. You could be seeing somebody that's going through a difficult situation, or they can be saying specific things, and you'll be so blinded by that. You won't even recognize, like, you know, that this person is literally having a hard time, or maybe there's something that you shouldn't have said. Honestly, this is why a lot of people feel like they're being gaslighted. They feel like they're being gaslighted or manipulated for the simple fact that um, people say things or just kind of ignore things, or the wording of how people say are saying things in context or out of context affects people. So before we get all deep into that, I really just want to say that it's important to understand that with emotional intelligence really comes from how I always say this, and I'm always going to say this, that because I'm an advocate for people who suffer from any type of trauma, but definitely from emotional and mental trauma as a child. I'm always going to advocate for those because that's where most of my work is done at, is trauma. I do a lot of trauma work. So a lot of the emotional intelligence is lacked because of how people were raised. In all of my coaching sessions, most of the things that I've talked about is about how we were raised and how our parents even lack that emotional intelligence because of how they were raised. A lot of us were raised off of tough love. So we're not allowed to actually show certain emotions in certain situations for the simple fact that our parents taught us how to have tough love in certain situations. So now that we're in the workplace or we're in social settings, we're using those same tactics, we're using those same skills that our parents taught us growing up, and now we don't even know how to actually empathize or sympathize with some of our friends and coworkers. And that's just really what it is. So how can we do that? What do we need to do in order to have those skills? We need to learn. So in the TED Talk, she talked about a lot of the things. So one of the skills she talked about was acknowledging emotions. Okay. And so in order for us to acknowledge those emotions, you have to you first have to understand that the person is feeling what they're feeling. The thing about acknowledging someone's emotion, you have to know that this person is feeling sad or mad or whatever it is, and you have to know how to actually talk to them, right? You have to know how to say, hey, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that I can do to help you? you know or if you're the person that's actually feeling that emotion, you have to actually say, this is how I'm feeling, right? So many times, like, it's a common thing, and I think I've said this before too. People will come up to us and say, hey, how are you doing? We're so used to saying good. I'm doing good. I'm doing fine. Why not just say, I'm having a bad day. I'm not having a good day. Just be honest about it. That's how we acknowledge our emotions. If we're actually having a good day or a bad day or a not so okay day, you acknowledge your emotions by saying exactly what it is. Say exactly what it is that you're feeling. That's how you acknowledge your emotions. Don't I think that everybody is so programmed. Our brain is programmed to say, I'm doing good, I'm doing fine. When inside you could be really going through a lot. You can really be going through a mental stress, emotional stress. You can be falling apart. So I think that a lot of times, in order for us to actually be true to ourselves and to understand our own emotions, we have to first acknowledge it. And as well as other people. Actually, when you come up to people, ask them, how are you actually feeling? What is it that you're feeling right now? Because maybe, a person could have woke up and they could have been having a good day, but later into the day, something could have happened and now they're not having a good day. So it's good to actually acknowledge those emotions. You know, you got to ask people with genuine interests, you know, ask authentic questions. And that's why I said it's really important to say, like, how are you feeling right now? You know, how I felt this morning doesn't mean that that's how I feel at 12 o'clock. Things change. You know, people will say, I'm doing fine, but then they'll still be complaining all day long. So how are you doing fine, but you're complaining all day long, you know? And so instead of like complaining about that, exactly, you know, say exactly what it is what it is that you're feeling. Why are you complaining about certain things, but yet you're staying fine? So that's another thing that you can do with a friend, a coworker, or in your social settings is if you're noticing that a person is saying I'm fine, but yet they're still complaining about stuff, you could even acknowledge that. You can say, hey, I noticed that you said that you're feeling fine, but I noticed that you're also complaining about um, or you're constantly saying that you have an issue with this person. What is it? And then honestly, most people will say, you know, I'm starting to feel unappreciated at this job, you know, and kind of sometimes you do have to ask those inviting questions because some people really don't know how to express themselves. You know, they really don't. They really don't know how to express themselves, which actually brings me to the next one that she talked about, which was I can't even say the word. Yeah. I don't know why I'm struggling with saying this word. Um, Analyze your emotions because I'm struggling with saying this other word. I don't know for some reason. I'm gonna say it in a second. But basically analyzing your emotions, but you have to know how to first pick out which emotions that you're actually feeling. We had posted in the group emotions wheel, and a lot of times people don't really know what emotions that they're feeling. So that's why we posted in the group. If you search through the group and you type in emotion wheel, you'll be able to check and see which emotion. Because a lot of times it's not about feeling sad, mad, anxious. There's so many other there's a million emotions that people could feel, and it's important to know what that is. So it's important to know how to, you know, choose which emotions that you're feeling in that moment. And emotions change. They change like the weather, okay? So you could be going through a moment and eventually as you talk it through, that emotion can change, right? I think that society now has an issue with talking about emotions. Everybody just wants to keep everything shut in, or like it's like society has created a taboo of like don't talk about things, and not just society, but again, we're going back to how we were raised. Sometimes that's how our parents raised us as well. Like we don't talk about things. We don't talk about what our feelings is or how we were, how what's going on in the house, because again, that's how they were treated as well. So we want to make sure that we're analyzing our emotions. When we talk about things or we express a feeling, we can learn how to analyze each one until we start to feel, like, okay, this is how I feel about this situation, and this is why I feel this way. You got to process things, analyze and process. Okay, there's so many different emotions, and they all have their different functions. I may have felt stressed about this situation, but because I situation, I'm feeling depressed about this one. And because I felt depressed about this situation, it's causing me to feel anxious about this situation. You know what I mean? So there's so many layers, there's so many different layers that, we can talk about when it comes to the emotions. Okay. The next one that she talks about is accepting and appreciating those emotions, So, and the reason why you want to accept and appreciate your emotions is because of the simple fact that a lot of times because you don't know how to process them, like you just kind of like bypass it. One thing that I've been teaching my clients is journaling, or in other words, because I really don't like using the word journaling because I think it's just so old school now, but I like to call it a brain dump. and that's something that we talk about in the coaching sessions plenty of times, is we talked about brain dumping, which is because with journaling, I feel like journaling, it has to, everybody thinks that with journaling, it has to be like the specific format. You got to like talk about a specific topic, about what you're feeling for that specific day. And honestly, that's not how I function. And I don't want my clients to function that way either, because honestly, that's not how the brain functions. A lot of times when we are feeling these emotions, we literally will have so many other thoughts and emotions going along with us, right? So if I'm feeling stressed out about work, I promise you, I can be probably feeling stressed out about like finances. Like say let's just, for example, right? Let's just say I'm stressed out about work because maybe, let's use a hypothetical situation. I'm stressed out about work because when I get to work, I don't feel appreciated by my boss, right? But then other things that come to mind is like, okay, because I don't feel appreciated by my boss, now I feel like my finances are not up to par. I'm also stressed out because I really want to go to the gym, but then in order for me to go to the gym, I got to wake up at 6 o'clock. But then I also, me waking up at 6 o'clock means that I'm going to lose sleep. I'm already tired. I need to lose weight. I'm not eating healthy. My child keeps getting sick. Um, like my car's not working. There'll be so many other things that goes on there, and people, but we ignore those emotions. Once again, those emotions are ignored because, again, we're not processing it. So when you do a brain dump, you're writing down all these thoughts, and again, they could be all over the place. Literally write down every single thought that you're thinking in that moment, and then you can do this as much as you want to. And then what I tell people to do is circle the thoughts that are consistent. The thoughts that are coming up often, you circle those thoughts, and then that's the ones that you want to continue to process on a daily or weekly basis so that you can come to a solution about it. Okay. So the thing about, that's why when she talks about like accepting and appreciating those emotions, this is what I get from it, because now it's like, okay, I actually appreciate me actually doing the brain dump because it brings about the emotions that I thought weren't even there. And then now I can actually process it and come to a solution. And then I feel better. I feel so much better about it because I'm reflecting on the emotions that are actually like constant, and the ones that I didn't even think that were there, that were actually deep there. And even though I may be sitting here worried about my boss, and maybe I feel like my boss doesn't like me, well, after I finished doing the brain dump, I found out that I'm really just insecure. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh my goodness, if I never even did the brain dump, I wouldn't even realize that I'm just being insecure. My boss actually appreciates me, you know? So that's why you want to make sure you're reflecting on these things. And you want to process these things, and you want to do the brain dump. You want to do all of those things because you'll realize that a lot of things come out of it. Um, the fourth one that she talks about, again, reflecting on your emotions, and we just talked about that. So Oh, I don't know what just happened, but I definitely wouldn't tell you not to sit in your emotions, because that's definitely not what you don't want to do that. I definitely think it's important sometimes to sit within your emotions so you can help process yourself, because if we react too fast, you may react the wrong way. So sometimes the best thing to do is just sit with your emotions and process these things and go through the scenarios of, like, if you did respond this way, what the outcome will be. It won't be always great. So the best time to do that is when you're by yourself. Go do some mindfulness, go for a walk, do some relaxation skills so you can calm down. A lot of people lack self-control, and you need to learn how to, and it's best to learn how to have some self-regulation. Okay. But I like reading. Reading is good, or you can listen to audiobooks, listen to some music. I've been one thing that I have a client we've been talking about is aromatherapy, and I think aromatherapy is good. Aromatherapy is good. If you're someone that smell is a good way to kind of help you calm down, definitely doing some aromatherapy to kind of help with emotions. Um, but what's another thing that she talked about, which is the last skill, is handling the emotion of others. When I tell you that it's really hard sometimes when other people are not emotionally intelligent, but you have to learn how to deal with other people. They they give you this when you're going for your license, right? They tell you that you have to make sure that you're not only driving for yourself, but you drive for the other people that's on the road. And I used to think that was the most stupidest thing, because I'm like, how can I drive for everybody else that's on the road? When I was a new driver on the road, I thought that was the most craziest thing, because I'm like, I can't focus on my driving, as a new driver, and focus on the other people around me. Like, they should be knowing how to drive. They got their license, like. But as I got older and I've gotten into all these car accidents, I definitely started to realize what that meant. And you definitely have to make sure that you're watching what other people are doing, because some people just really don't pay attention. And you might have to swerve over a little bit to avoid from getting into those certain car accidents. And honestly, I think about that as when you're handling other people's emotions, I think about that. In order to avoid the car accident, sometimes you might have to swerve a little bit. You might have to, like, swerve from causing the argument, if that means avoiding from saying certain things, if that means avoiding from reacting to the way that they're reacting. You might have to react differently. You have to respond differently. You can't always respond the same way that everybody else responds, because now you're feeding into their the way that their lack of emotional intelligence. If you have the emotional intelligence, it's your job now to make sure that you respond and react effectively as someone who has that emotional intelligence, and teach them. People learn from other people, and we know that. So if I'm learning from you, then I would know, hey, this person did not respond to me in an aggressive or negative way, so maybe I should take heed of that, and I should make sure that when I talk to this person, that I make sure that I don't talk to them in that way as well. So that's how we handle people when they are doing this, they are being negative, or they're being aggressive towards us in communication. And when you're dealing with people in social settings and workplaces, sometimes it can be hard, because you do have those negative Nancy's and those, people who don't want to, be nice. Sometimes they don't want to help you, and they don't want to, they doubt you. You got the doubting Davids. They don't want to help you. They doubt your worth. They doubt your skills, but you know what you bring to the table. So in order to have that emotional intelligence, you have to make sure that you have those skills. You want to make sure you have empathy. Have some empathy. Learn how to empathize with people. Be self-aware. Have some regulation. Have some self-regulation. Make sure that your social skills are up to par, so that you know exactly how to address situations, and you know how to be more empathetic, or have that emotional um, intelligence when dealing with difficult people. Okay. So one of the what I want everyone to do is take a reflection of yourself, do an inventory of yourself, and ask yourself, do I have emotional intelligence? Am I someone who lacks any of these skills? And if so, what is it that I need to do to make sure that I continue, what do I need to do to make sure that I have these skills in place so that when I am hit with these social situations, I'm not going to be someone that is looked at as lacking those skills of empathy and self-regulation or social skills, or not knowing how to analyze and recognize emotions or handle other people who lack emotional intelligence. Okay. Next week we will be talking about something else that's important. I won't say it today, but we will be talking about another topic. And I hope that everybody has a Wellness Wednesday. Take care of yourself mentally and emotionally. Have a